Hey, good morning friends, and welcome to another episode of Team Jesus Outdoors. Hey friends, in this week's video we are going to share with you 3 tips that will definitely improve your walleye jigging game. Well, the snow has stopped. A little bit of wind today. Hopefully we can still get a few. The first tip is boat control. When you're jigging for walleye, you can get everything else right. You can have all the right gear. You can have the jigging technique down perfect. You can do everything right, but if you don't have good boat control, you're going to struggle to catch fish. And for those of you that have been on the river at all, you know that the most challenging wind to deal with on the Detroit River is a south wind. It makes the river a bumpy ride, and it makes boat control pretty tough. Essentially, the basics of boat control for jigging walleye are this. We know that we need to keep our boat and our jig moving at the same speed as the current in order to keep our line vertical. So in order to do that, we point our trolling motor into the wind and experiment with the speed of the trolling motor to find that perfect speed that will keep our boat drifting at the same speed as the current, and therefore keep our jig at the same speed as the current.
I was formed from the dust and breath into my lungs. Then my eyes open and a new life begun. I'm alive and I feel like it's time to live it up. So I'ma give my all and you won't stop. We gon' live it up.
Boat control is the key and the foundation to having a successful day jigging for walleye. You got fish? All right. Yes, you do. Great species and everything.
Great species, great size.
First fish on my boat for 2018.
17.
Cooler right here's got jug ice in it. Am I okay on your lines? Probably the topic that I hear debated the most amongst walleye fishermen is jig size selection. One of the common misconceptions that I hear talked about is that you want to start with the lightest jig you can get away with. Unfortunately, jig selection isn't quite that simple. There are times when you do want to fish the lightest jig weight that you can get away with. There are other times when a heavier jig is going to be far more productive. A heavier jig falls faster, so it falls more frequently. Fish are programmed to eat baits that are falling because as baits die, they fall. If you're heading out to jig the Detroit River, you definitely want to have a good jig selection. I suggest that a walleye angler on the Detroit River should have a good jig selection of jigs that are 1/2 ounce, 5/8, 3/4, and 1 ounce. Typically I'm going to start with a 3/4 and go down if necessary, or go up to 1 ounce if necessary. Tip number 3 is jigging speed. In the early season of really cold water, it's very important that you jig your bait much slower. Fish in cold water are very lethargic. They're not feeding aggressively, and you really need to jig slowly. So my friend Easton from Easton Music Ministry sent me another verse of the week. This is found in Philippians chapter 4 verse 6. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Guys, I have loved that verse for years. I think the best contemporary commentary on that verse is that old pop song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. In essence, that is exactly what that verse says. Christians do not honor God by worrying. God makes a number of promises throughout the New Testament that Christians need not worry about anything. In the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, we read, for we know that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord, those that are called according to His purpose. What can you change by worrying about it anyway? So it's senseless to worry about things that we cannot change. We simply need to trust that God will fulfill His promises to take care of us. And that's not to say that we won't have any troubles or hard times in this life, because we will. When God promises to look out for our best interest, it's our best spiritual interest that He's talking about, our best eternal interests. And if Christians could learn to look at life through those lenses and see our lives the way that God sees our lives, we would be far better off for it. So hey friends, don't worry, be happy, trust God. Hey, I hope these tips help you out. Thanks for watching Team Jesus Outdoors. We'll catch you on the next episode. Don't forget to click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this. We'll have another jig fishing video in the next week or two. Hey, tight lines, God bless. We'll see you on the water.
We gon' live it up, 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 up. We gon' live it up, 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 up. We gon' live it up.